Hello everyone and welcome back to My Canada Move. Now I want to share an important update with you guys for those who especially have not heard about this information before. It's welcoming news for persons who have submitted their PR application and are yet to receive their AOR. This usually affects persons who have submitted their PR application through non-express entry. It can take up to 8 months, even a year, for you to obtain that AOR that allows you to apply for a bridging open work permit. And so you find that a lot of persons, they have gone out of status waiting for the AOR. And so a temporary operational measure was introduced effective June 9th, and I'm just going to quickly go through the information. Now, with that, IRCC has introduced temporary measures that may allow certain applicants inside Canada, it's inside Canada, to apply for a work permit without first receiving your permanent residence acknowledgement of receipt. So ideally, what exists is you submit your application via either express entry or non-express entry. You have to get your AOR, an acknowledgement of receipt, before you are able to submit a bridging work permit, especially for persons who are going out of status and they need to extend their work permit. So before we continue though, this update does not apply to every permanent resident application. So please listen carefully to the eligibility details. Now, this was effective June 9, 2026. Individuals who applied for permanent residence through Provincial Nominee Program may be able to use an alternative proof that their permanent residence application was submitted. Like I said, what exists before this temporary measure, in order for you to apply for a bridging open work permit so that you don't go out of status, you would have to provide your acknowledgement of receipt. This applies to both the base provincial nominee applicants and the provincial nominee applicants submitted through express entry. So if you applied via the paper-based route or you applied via express entry, so you can think of it as express entry versus non-express entry, it applies for you. The temporary measure covers 3 work permit categories. First, it covers provincial nominee employer specific work permit. And I can just show you that right here. So that's the PNP employer specific work permit where nomination has expired. Okay. Second, it covers the PNP bridging open work permits. And third, it covers eligible spouse open work permits for spouses or partners of PNP principal applicants only. Okay, so what exactly has changed? So normally applicants in these categories may be required to provide their permanent residence AOR, that's acknowledgement of receipt, to prove that their application was received and is being processed by IRCC. However, some PNP applicants have been waiting a long time, as I indicated earlier, upwards of a year. Some persons have been waiting a long time to complete the initial completeness check on their permanent residence application. Now, this is known as R10 completeness check. Mind you, if you had submitted your PR application via the express entry route, usually you would get your AOR within hours, 24 to 48 hours. And I'm telling you hours meaning probably within 3 hours, 2 hours, or a few hours. But once you have applied via non-express entry, which is the paper-based route, that is taking upwards of a year for some people. So IRCC acknowledged that these delays have resulted in some people having their work permit applications refused because that was a requirement for you to submit the AOR with your application for the bridging open work permit. In other cases, applicants have faced interruptions in their ability to work or the potential loss of their temporary resident status, which is what has been the case increasingly. Under the new temporary measure, applicants who have not yet received the AOR, they may submit alternative evidence. Now, according to the official IRCC instructions, applicants may provide a copy of the email confirming that their permanent residence application was submitted through the online portal, together with proof that the applicable permanent residence fees were paid. Okay, so that's the first thing. A copy of the email confirming submission of your PR application through the online portal, together with proof of payment where applicable. Okay. IRCC officers may also confirm through IRCC's internal system that the permanent residence application was in fact received and remains pending. Now, you have here confirmation in the system. This is just the same thing that I just said, that an APR has been received and remains pending. So it's just the same thing summarized. Now, there are several important limitations, and you must pay attention to that. This temporary measure applies only to work permit applications processed from inside Canada. Applicants submitting their work permit applications from outside Canada, they have to still provide a permanent residence, AOR, before the work permit can be processed. So that's one of the limitations, and you have to note that. Also, this measure only applies when an AOR has not yet been issued at the time the person submits the work permit application, which makes sense. So if you have already received your AOR, you must submit the AOR with your work permit application. Now, another important point is that this temporary measure does not change the normal eligibility requirements for the work permit. You must still qualify for that particular work permit that you are applying for, and you must still satisfy all eligibility and admissibility requirements. Providing the submission email and payment receipt does not guarantee that the work permit will be approved. It also does not mean that IRCC has completed the R10 completeness check on your PR application. If later on IRCC determines that the PR application is incomplete and returns it, then the normal consequences will still apply, and this could also affect the applicant's future work permit eligibility. So please understand that. The temporary measure is currently scheduled to remain in effect until December 31st, 2026. So unless IRCC issues any additional instructions or extends the measure, the standard requirement to provide an AOR is expected to resume after that date. So let's summarize this update again. You may potentially benefit from this temporary measure if you applied for permanent residence under the Provincial Nominee Program, if you are currently inside Canada, if you have not yet received your permanent residence AOR, which means Acknowledgement of Receipt, and you are applying for an eligible provincial nominee employer-specific work permit, a provincial nominee bridging open work permit, or an eligible housing open work permit. You may submit your permanent residence portal submission confirmation email together with proof that you paid the applicable PRCs. Please remember that this is an alternative form of evidence only. It does not remove the other requirements associated with your work permit application. This is certainly a helpful development, of course, for provincial nominee applicants who have been caught between the expiry of their current status and the lengthy wait for an AOR. However, applicants must carefully review the requirements for the specific work permit category before submitting an application. So I will place the official IRCC Operational Bulletin number 699 in the description as well as in the MCM Telegram channel so that you can read the complete instructions for yourself. Now, as usual, you are encouraged to share this video with anyone who submitted a PNP, PR application, and they're still waiting for an AOR. Please like the video, subscribe to MCM, and turn on notifications for future Canadian immigration updates. And as usual, you can drop your questions in the comment section.